The anti-feminist right-wing grift is collapsing in real time and not a moment too soon. You guys, I've been warning you for the better part of a year that half of the influencers pushing this garbage are frauds. They are bots, they are anonymous accounts, and in many cases, I believe they are paid opposition designed to stir up gender discord. And this past week, I was proven right on that front yet again with an account known as Patriarchy Hannah getting exposed.
Here's a little bit of context to the recent tradwife drama. So this entire scandal involves a woman who goes by the name of Patriarchy Hannah or Harmonized Grace on Twitter. This is her Twitter profile. As you can see by her bio, it says, Christian, wife of What's Good It's Tea, which is her husband Tony, nap apologist, homeschool mom, known party pooper, feminists say I'm problematic. And as you can see by her whole vibe, she's very tradwife. The husband Tony runs a successful construction company. I think he even built the house they live in, while Hannah herself is a stay-at-home mother who homeschools their 14 children. Alongside this, she also runs a Twitter account, obviously, as well as a successful podcast. And one thing I have to clarify is that when I say tradwife, I don't mean like Nara Smith tradwife, I mean like Pearl tradwife. Her views were pretty controversial, even amongst other traditionalist women, and obviously this video is by no means an attack on people who choose to live that sort of lifestyle, but she has some really unironic, horrible opinions. For example, she believes that women shouldn't be allowed to vote, and she just believes that women are inferior to men in every way, especially intellectually. She would go on and on in tangents about how modern-day women are so horrible and how she feels so sorry for men for having to put up with us. Literally the stuff Pearl says to a T. She would blame women for being single and childless or when their husbands would cheat on them or leave them, and she would essentially say that it's their fault for not being submissive enough or being traditional enough or good enough wives, or essentially for not being more like her. Recently, somebody found some inconsistencies in her stories and decided to do a deep dive, and what they found will literally shock you. Shout out to this guy. I recommend reading his thread after you watch the video. After doing some research, they found out that Hannah does not exist. She is a complete fabrication run by a woman named Jennifer. This woman, Jennifer, leads the complete opposite lifestyle that she has been portraying. She is single, she's not married, she does not have any husband, she does not have any children, let alone 14 homeschool children. The children were completely made up. It's actually insane.
Now, if you were unfamiliar with this account, you're forgiven. On one hand, yes, it's a terminally online whole phenomenon, but I have to push back on people that say those things don't matter, because online is increasingly where the culture is taking place, and culture is what ultimately impacts politics. And so if you aren't in the weeds on this, that's okay, but don't come in and tell me that I shouldn't be alarmed when these things are happening. This was a massive account. It was constantly getting amplified by TradCon Inc., many pastors who are also grifters, I'll get to them in a minute, many conservative figureheads, and they were doing it explicitly because this person was pushing anti-woman talking points. She was giving cover to the men in these spaces that were doing the same. She was hosting large podcasts and spaces. It was an impactful account. And most importantly, the vast majority of people not only had zero problem with what she was saying, they had zero discernment in sniffing out that she was a fraud. But you know who didn't have a problem with that? Me. I called this specific account out months ago. Roll the receipts. Here's an example of the kinds of things she would post. She had said, if you claim to be a conservative woman and wouldn't give up your right to vote to save this country, you're actually not a conservative woman. Now, there's been a huge push to repeal the 19th Amendment online, talking about how women shouldn't have the right to vote. Like I said, I believe that this is being paid for largely by foreign ops. I've already seen some people who were doing that, like Lauren Chin, get exposed for taking money from Russia, along with Tim Cass and some other grifters in that space. I think that's just going to keep happening, but I called her out in particular. Let's see, this was back in, October of 2024. I said, they wonder why women are fleeing the right in droves. This is not strategic, people. And I went on to quote tweet myself again and say, I genuinely do think a lot of the rise in misogynistic right-wing content is being funded by opponents, likely both foreign and domestic. It's working because so few on the right are speaking out, condemning it, and distancing from those who spew it. And like we all now know, Patriarchy Hannah was not some trad wife. She didn't even have kids. She actually is just an obese ex-porn star, it seems, that has a felony, who's living with her parents in obscurity somewhere in Arkansas. Here's what she actually looks like in a mugshot that was obtained. And now the TradCon nationalist pastors, and I am putting pastors in quotes because these aren't pastors. I have a father who's a pastor. He actually goes and takes care of people. He actually ministers to them. He actually leads a body of people. I'm talking about people like Eric Kahn and Joel Wieben, who are just online grifters, the little squirmy, gross men. They were losers in high school. They're trying to take it out on the rest of the world still. And they really have only gathered followings because of accounts like Patriarchy Hannah continuing to bolster them and prop them up, which is why the entire thing looks completely inorganic to me. She was like one of their types of fangirls that come in. They're always anonymous types of accounts. And now that she has gotten exposed, and because they counted her as one of their only female supporters to prop up the garbage they were spewing against women, they are suddenly quiet. And you know why? Because these same kinds of men who rant and rave about women lacking discernment and women not having leadership skills couldn't even suss out an obvious grifter. But again, you know who could? Me. Because I'm smarter than all of them combined, and I hope they hear that loud and clear. This is what I have been trying to tell you guys all along. When I first started pushing back on this whole movement on this channel a year ago with my series Histrionics, the tide was against me. I got mocked, I got bullied, I even got threatened. I had people constantly trying to silence me saying, why are you talking about this? This is a waste of time. Who cares? Their talking points are right even. And I knew that that would happen. I knew when I chose to stand up for women on the right, loud and proud, that I would incur backlash. I told Brad that when we were planning the series. But you know what? Number one, that tells you everything you need to know about the seediness that's happening on the right now. And number two, it's important to know that I persevered because I knew this battle did matter. I knew I had the discernment and wisdom to know which fights were important to pick in the political space. And ultimately, I knew I was right. So I didn't care about being popular. Ultimately, I care about liking myself 10 years down the road and being able to look back and say, I told you so. So to my haters, remember that. I won't stop. I will win. I will be proven right. Thank you. So now the cracks in the movement are showing. The frauds are getting exposed. That's only going to keep happening. The people who tried to detract from what I was doing are going to just keep eating their words. But I will say the fake accounts and the foreign influence peddling are not the only problems in the space. I actually think there is a much bigger issue, which is that the so-called leaders of the trad conservative movement are just as fake. And nothing proves that more than the massive scandal that broke while I was trying to take a vacation and then got sick, which is that Elon Musk fathered yet another baby. I think this is his 13th with a popular MAGA e-girl, and it has been completely unraveling over the past week, and we absolutely have to talk about it. First, I'm Hannah Cox. Welcome to my channel where I bring you my politically homeless takes on politics and culture. Guys, it's been a minute. Thanks for standing by while I was out on vacation. As many of you know, my husband and I, who, yes, we're already married, but we've not had our wedding ceremony yet. We were out in the Santa Ynez Wine Valley in California, one of my favorite places on earth, one of the most peaceful places on earth. And I was planning to take a few days out, and then I got the flu on the way back. At least I think it was the flu. I don't know. That's the sickest I've been in recent memory, but it was killing me to be out for so long while all of this was going on. I had no voice to record last week, so I was just sitting in the comments like stewing. I'm so excited to be back with you today. So whatever strain this was I got was no joke. Drink your fluids. Thanks for your patience while I recovered. I am so excited to dig into this entire fiasco with you guys. And if you enjoy the show, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel while you're at it. I do release shows every weekday that I'm healthy at 7 p.m. So hit the notification bell to get reminders for each new video. I have to set the scene for you guys because it was honestly kind of funny. It was Valentine's Day. My husband and I were having this wonderful romantic trip in Santa Ynez, which if you haven't been, you have to go to Santa Ynez. It's just magical. It feels like you're on another world. I mean, it's just completely breathtaking. But anyways, I was trying to be completely off my phone, trying to be off mentally, don't look at the internet. And I just happened at Valentine's Day dinner to look at Twitter ever so briefly, and I see all hell breaking loose with a well-known conservative e-girl grifter, Ashley St. Clair, posting this tweet. She wrote, 5 months ago, I welcomed a new baby into the world. Elon Musk is the father. What a second line. I have not previously disclosed this to protect our child's privacy and safety, but in recent days, it has become clear that tabloid media intends to do so regardless of the harm it will cause. I intend to allow our child to grow in a normal and safe environment. For that reason, I ask that the media honor our child's privacy and refrain from invasive of reporting. So this was kind of sus from the very get-go because nobody knew that this baby even existed. I mean, there is zero proof that anybody was sniffing around the story whatsoever. And even if that had been the case, it seems like the very last thing you would do in response to that, if you wanted to keep your privacy, is to drop a bombshell PR statement like this on Twitter, along with your media contacts information at the bottom. And she went on to do a very high profile interview, complete with pictures in her apartment in New York City where she's not wearing shoes. Okay. She made sure to get her like feet pics in there. I mean, it's just the whole thing is so thirsty and desperate. She very clearly wanted attention, as many people clocked right away on Valentine's Day when she dropped this notice. Elon Musk had been pictured running around town with another baby mama and 2 other kids that he has. And it seems like she was pretty jealous and upset about that. It also seemed in the days after she dropped this bombshell that she has basically been ghosted by Elon and has not been getting responses from him. And so it seems that she decided to fully unravel online and put this into the court of public opinion. I don't think this is someone who wanted privacy in the least. So this news is breaking on Valentine's Day, right alongside the news that the patriarchy Hannah account was fake, which of course I'm getting tagged in because, again, I had called it. And just imagine me, I'm trying to explain this bombshell news to my normie husband, who is literally only on Twitter when I send him links of posts to view. So it was impossible for me to fully distill the flaming hypocrisy involved in the story, much less all of the signs that were there that this was going on all along. But now that I've had time to get my thoughts together, I'm going to try to do that for each of you. So this is a girl, if you aren't super involved on Twitter, who built a massive following. I think she has over 1 million followers, and she did it by mostly preaching anti-feminist, trad, red pill talking points, okay? Also, while she was doing this, she already had 1 kid out of marriage and was fully being a boss babe. She was using her profile to get book deals and jobs at places like the Babylon Bee. She was highly visible online. Like, she was a quintessential influencer. She wasn't actually working on anything of consequence. That girl's never been at a state capitol to my knowledge. She wasn't working around actual public policy. She was literally just a conservative e-girl, trash talking boss babes and having a career and single moms. Like, it was just always glaringly hypocritical. And that wasn't only annoying because of the hypocrisy, but more so because conservatives as a whole just are too daft to see through stuff like this. I mean, that's increasingly the case. And not only was all of that true, but this girl was not especially interesting or intelligent or funny. She just really got retweeted by Elon Musk a lot. Like, her account started taking off as he started promoting her. It was very, very apparent to me all along that, like, there was probably something going on between the two of them. She was also one of the known influencers on Twitter that started posting that she was getting huge payouts every month from Twitter, getting, I mean, $6,000, $7,000 payouts. That makes no sense. Other accounts like me, who have people with large accounts and who get millions and millions of impressions and tons of engagement every month, have never seen paychecks anywhere close to that from Twitter. And so people have said for some time, like, the algorithm, the calculations, the payment system here, it doesn't make sense. It seems like a couple thoughts, like Ashley and another girl that I think is like maybe even an actual OnlyFans girl. I really don't know. It doesn't matter, but they were getting these huge payouts and people like, something's off here. This doesn't track. Okay. So yeah, I wasn't that surprised when I found out this girl had like a bastard baby with Elon Musk. But just for reference, in case you weren't observing all of this go down over the past couple of years, here are some examples of her work.
That Gen Z really doesn't have traditional dating periods.
Yeah.
It's you're just kind of hooking
There's
up.
no definition
and it's
to
talking,
anything.
hey, maybe we should go back to like traditional dating. You know, my girlfriend's a Democrat. I'm like, well, get out. What
How
happens?
does that happen?
I don't know. And that's what I said. I said, there is a fundamental difference in the values of Democrats and Republicans. That's not going to work. I mean, what happens if she gets pregnant? No one wants to commit or be in a traditional like dating.
Right.
It's these weird talking stages, and their talking stages mean like the hookup phase. Why do we have so many people making choices that really are against our biological nature? I feel like this is a majority of the Gen Z girls and the whatever they're calling that other generation. They really fell prey to this hookup culture. They're understanding that it's not making them happy. If you're a young man looking for a more traditional relationship,
Go to church.
Yeah. I just feel like they they have to live, you have to walk the walk, and you can't be calling for traditional lifestyles if you yourself are involved in hookup culture and things like that. Social media contributes to the problem of people always thinking there's something else out there. Well, I could do better. I think it's more important to be have shared values rather than interests. I think interests are temporary and can be switched out and changed. You want to promote family values and tell everyone to have families, and that's your purpose, but it's also very hard for people to do that now. So
there are a bunch of people trying to take your kid away from you as well.
Yeah, exactly. You have people who can't raise families the way that we're supposed to. They are really trying to take our children from us.
She's condemning hookup culture, claiming that it's only women on the left who are participating in it, saying they're trying to take our kids from us. They're trying to stop us from having nuclear families. She's looking down on people who say they want to live traditional lifestyles and still participate in hookup culture, all the while already having one baby daddy out there, and seems like she was well on her way to making sure she obtained another as she was giving these kinds of interviews. One thing is for certain, we need to bring back public shaming. We need people to feel a sense of shame again, not only when they do things that are obviously bad for themselves and bad for kids they may create and bad for society, but also when they flat out lie and live lives that are in direct contrast to those that they are demanding other people live. And not only demanding that other people live, but often trying to implement rules forcing them to live. Like, she should get absolutely no grace here whatsoever. Here she is in another interview arguing that women shouldn't vote because she doesn't want to work.
Should they vote?
I should have the right to trade my right to vote to not work anymore.
That's a good trade.
Let's offer a trade deal. I will trade.
Yeah.
Let me tell you
We'll
something.
trade it in.
Go to a man.
My favorite part about that entire interview is that Nick Gillespie from Reason magazine is sitting there just with his head in his hands like, what am I listening to? He's the only sane person in the room because he's the only libertarian in the room, clearly, that actually respects individual rights and sees through this kind of grift, and his face is priceless. And honestly, like, her entire platform was just more of this like subservience bait. Here's another post of hers where she said, the only people who can destroy this toxic wave of feminism is women. Bring back family values. Make monogamy great again. It's okay to want to be a stay-at-home mom or wife. Stop thinking you need to do the same things as men to be good enough. Femininity is beautiful. Monogamy is beautiful while intentionally procreating with somebody who is essentially a polygamist is wild. And again, I don't mind the people who actually quietly hold these views and live them out. There are plenty of people like that. I grew up in a family like that. Interestingly enough, while I'm a libertarian, it would never try to force my way of life on anybody else. I believe in live that way. I am in a monogamous committed relationship. I didn't believe in living with somebody until I got married. I would never have a child outside of marriage. I would never be with a man who wasn't going to be a present active father. And I can believe those things without trying to push other people to make the same decisions as me. I certainly can believe those things without trying to detract from women who live differently than me. Like, that is the glaring difference between people like Ashley and me. Number one, I actually live out these values. Number two, it doesn't really matter because I'm not trying to force them on other people. Here's another take of Ashley's that aged like milk. She wrote, Kamala can't help bending herself over for a man to get ahead. The call is coming from inside the house, Ashley. Another, feminism is the worst drug on the market. And lastly, I just want a husband, 2 kids, and a small farm already. This was not an invitation for marriage request. Please stop. I'm not sure how a tweet talking about my desire for traditional family life and values makes me a thought or attention seeker, but the internet gets dumber every day. Bite me. Like, I'm overdosing on the pick-me energy coming from her. But these are the right's thought leaders at this point. The common denominator of intellect on the right, it just keeps ticking down. These kinds of people are attracted to right-wing spaces, not because they are right-wing themselves, but because they recognize that these people are easier to grift on. People have pointed this out for probably a decade now. But the conservatives have a huge grifter problem. They have a huge problem with taking people, anybody who like gives them a little attention, a little pat on the head, who builds up their ego, they will support as if it is their mom. They have such a tribalist mentality. They never stop to think that perhaps these people have failed to carve out spaces for themselves elsewhere and are coming to the right because it's so easy to build a following and start making money and to get fame and attention if you just repeat a couple talking points that make conservatives feel good. They lack discernment, they lack wisdom, and increasingly their movement lacks intellectualism, much less principles. Like principles where? Because conservatives used to stand up for individual rights, which included women's rights. And the fact that they have not only ceded that high ground, but that they have a growing number of people who are openly working against women and their rights, who are openly speaking against them, it's going to be a continuing big problem for them. But guys, let me know your thoughts. I know today is going to be spicy. My give a damn's busted. I'm just telling you exactly what I think. I do not care. I don't care who this makes mad. I think that the stances I'm taking right now are unequivocally correct and principled and ethical, which we'll get into more in a minute, but I want to hear your thoughts. I do try to read all of the comments. I can't wait to hear from you guys again, so please do weigh in and make sure you subscribe to my channel while you're there. Now, for reasons that will become more relevant as we progress, it's good to know that Ashley's grift didn't just include BS like repealing the 19th Amendment. This hussy specifically advocated against women getting child support or seeking custody. Here she is with a tweet that said, "Before the idiots start thinking I'm advocating for children and men not paying child support, I'm not. My point is that if a woman gets to fetus because she doesn't feel like having a child, a man should be able to opt out of paying if he doesn't want the child." Interesting line in the sand, Ashley. Here's another where she wrote, "There is no sin as cruel as alienating a child from a parent, seen so much of this everywhere." Now, we'll circle back to this in a little bit, but it is relevant to know that Ashley has since filed for sole custody of their child and is seeking substantial child payments from Elon, who really does seem to have completely ghosted both her and this baby. Now, not only was Ashley very obviously a grifter, not only was she someone who was willing to sell out women in order to get herself a little bit ahead because she lacked intelligence and the ability to do anything else that would actually get her paid. So that was bad enough, but also, there were lots of signs all along that Ashley was pretty intentionally after being a gold digger and specifically had her target set on Elon. And like I said, people started noticing that they were interacting a lot more probably 2 years ago. He was retweeting her. That's really how her platform started to grow. It wasn't like she attracted a lot of interest otherwise, but he has such a huge platform that like if he just typically retweets you pretty often, you're going to get a casual million followers. Like here she is saying, "Stopping birth control and Adderall was one of the best things I ever did for my mental health. So many Americans on pharmaceutical cocktails and then wondering why they feel out of their minds." Elon responded to her and said, "For sure," which is such foreshadowing, man. Here's another one where she had posted about Ukraine and Russia with a headline that said, "Wagner chief says his forces will pull back." And Elon responded to her and said, "The pull out method." He followed that up with another tweet that said, "Speaking personally, I obviously prefer the pull-in method." And she sent him a meme that said, "Go to horny jail." These people are degenerates. Here's a video where she started going down to Austin to do very odd podcast and promo type activities for Tesla and some of their employees.
Hello! Gail, this is incredible what you're doing here. I am so happy that I found your podcast and you, and I love that you're out here showing people, especially women, the intuitiveness of Tesla and what we don't get when we're driving other vehicles.
So yeah, the signs were there, and that's just the stuff that was public facing. Since Ashley made her announcement, multiple people have come forward with other information behind the scenes showing what her true intent was. This is honestly like a battle between the worst people you've ever heard of. It's people like Laura Loomer and that Milo guy that used to be big and then fell off, and this Isabella Riley girl who's like a creep and a weirdo in her own right. They're all like, they hate Ashley. I don't know what the beef is behind the scenes. I think it's just like a competition of who can like out grift who, and they're pissed she got ahead and pissed she got that Elon payment, I think. But they started leaking text, and as you can see, they really do have some tea on her. Here's one of the DMs that was leaked where she is sending a tweet she's thinking of sending, and she says, "Bro, is this funny?" Isabella Riley said, "Yes, haha, I love it." She said, "The pressure is on now. I have to be funny. Elon followed me. I need his rocket babies, LOL." Isabella said, "Oh my God, no way. That's so awesome." And she said, "He 1000% saw my moon landing tweet. Look, I'll take one for the team, seduce Elon, and get in a rocket to see what's up." And another message, she said, "I need a caption to seduce Elon Musk, thinking about the dangers of AI," with a laughing face. Here she is talking about her desire publicly to get a marriage proposal from Elon Musk. And another person said to her, "He's got a kid with a woman already. Seems unlikely to work out." She said, "Well, he actually has 7 kids and goes through women pretty fast." So like, she was totally game for all of this. And I've seen some people who are criticizing her trying to say this is entrapment. Like, no, it's not, okay? One, you can't really baby trap a man. unless you're poking holes in the condom or lying about being on birth control, like it's really the man who decides who he gets pregnant, and men are autonomous adults and should be able to make those decisions and to calculate appropriately. So I really have to push back on the notion that she baby trapped him, especially when it seems that, at least for a time period, Elon was super game for this. And don't worry, I'm coming for Elon Musk tomorrow. I'm going to have to break this into 2 different videos because there is just so much ground to cover here, but I'm not for people who are solely calling out Ashley. I am going to come for her, okay? I fully stand up for women and their rights. I also will fully come for women who try to turn on other women, who try to undermine other women's rights, and who are in the wrong, which she is. She intentionally created a baby out of wedlock with a man that she knows has a reputation for abandoning his kids and not even being present in most of their lives. She clearly did it for a paycheck. She did it because she has no morals, because she doesn't care about what actually happens to that baby. It is unquestionable. We know without a shadow of a doubt that babies born in a 2-parent household that stays together fare better than others. And there are many people who intend to provide that for their kids and through no fault of their own end up in circumstances where they have to be single parents. But that is an entirely different scenario and calculation than somebody like Ashley and Elon, who intentionally made a baby knowing that this would be the situation. And not only that, but who are now exposing all of this drama, all of this tea for the public, putting all of this on display. Like, awful. It's going to be awful for that kid. It's going to be awful for him to grow up and see what a trashy woman his mother was, how much his dad didn't care about him, the fact that his dad won't even respond to things around his custody. Like, this is the trashiest thing I've seen go down on the right in recent memory. And it's fine to call out Ashley. What's pissing me off is the number of people calling out Ashley and not Elon, which again is a whole other deep dive for tomorrow. But in the meantime, I think it's important to say that while she did not baby trap him, I do think she was calculated, she was hypocritical, and what she did was condemnable. If conservatives have any leg to stand on, while I have always hated social conservatism, I've always hated the notion that you have any right to tell other people how to live, the one thing they had going for them is that they were right. The nuclear family is a good thing. It's good for society, it's good for individuals, and it especially is good for kids. But now they've completely lost the plot on that, okay? They keep arguing for it because that's their grift now. They keep arguing that people should be married, that we need to address the birth rate, that we need parents to stay together. They even go so far as to say that gay couples shouldn't be able to use IVF to have children, or that it's harmful for kids to have parents that are gay, which is utterly ridiculous. What matters is that you have 2 parents who are in a stable, loving relationship and who stay together. So they keep pushing this notion while opposing it in a number of other ways, both when it comes to gay families, but also when it comes to addressing the real reasons that increasingly doesn't happen. They're happy to call out women for sleeping around or for having kids with men who shouldn't be fathers, but they never turn that energy back on dads, who are far more likely to be deadbeats, far more likely to not participate in their kids' lives, far more likely to fight trying to pay or having to pay child support to support kids that they make. They never want to turn that energy on the men. They never want to talk about the fact that so many men not pulling their weight in marriages and in parenting is why women increasingly are leaving their marriages and would rather just do it alone because it's easier that way, and why a lot of women are increasingly choosing not to intermarriage or not to have kids in the first place. So you can't claim to want to fix the birth rate like Elon Musk does while running around and being Exhibit A for why it is declining. And you also can't run around trying to tell other people that this is how they should live and trying to pass laws that would enforce that while being a hypocrite and living in direct contrast to the message you're preaching at the same time. This all fell apart when they decided to completely move themselves into a cult that is mostly there to support Trump in whatever way his winds blow. They don't have any actual ideological grounds anymore. They become completely unmoored from their principles. It's important to remember you become like the company you keep. And when Trump became their guy and they started building a cult-like movement of personality around him, they made an intentional choice to throw away this whole notion that they were the party that stood for family values and morality, because he didn't, because he had a long track record of making babies with lots of women and getting divorced. He had a long track record of cheating on his wives, of being involved with pornographers and being involved with people who were propping up those kinds of industries. And so they made that trade. And that's very, very evident in where their movement has gone ever since. The hypocrisy and the double standards and the grifting does not begin or end with the women. It doesn't begin or end with Ashley. It doesn't even begin or end with Elon Musk. It's the movement as a whole that has a grifter problem at this point and that has thrown the baby out with the bathwater. I want you to look at the conservative trad male grifters who rushed in to defend this entire gross scenario. In response to Ashley's initial announcement on Twitter, Robbie Starbucks said, "Congrats, Ashley. The world needs more based babies. It's none of the media's business, and it's vile that they plan to out your private business and Elon's. Kids should be off limits." Lila Rose, who's a huge advocate for forcing women to have babies, said, "Congratulations on your baby, Ashley. We'll pray for you guys." Matt Gates said, "This child has incredible genes. Much love to this wonderful family." Jack Posobiec said, "God bless you and your family, Ashley." Billboard Chris said, "Congratulations, Ashley. Pay the haters no heed. You have the ultimate blessing." And the problem here is that every single one of these people would have a direct opposite take if they were responding to a baby mama for somebody like, I don't know, Nick Cannon. Like, these are the same people who rant and rave about hookup culture and about family values and about how bad it is for kids to grow up without both parents. And yet, when Elon's in question, they're groveling and simping in the comments because they are so desperate for proximity to power. But just like right-wing people love to say the feminism leaves the woman's body when the bill comes, it became rather apparent that the anti-woman trad grift leaves your body as soon as your gold-digging plans fall through and your baby daddy stops corresponding with you. Tomorrow, we pick up with Elon's role in all of this and just how far conservative Inc. will go to get close to him and Trump. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back with part 2 tomorrow. If you want to support my show, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. Consistently tuning into my episodes is the best way to help me grow the platform, and it means so much to me. I'll see you tomorrow.